Hey guys, my name's Christopher. Before we get started, if you like to wrap things in leather and would like to collaborate on some tips and tricks on projects that I'm doing, post your comments in the section below and hit that subscribe button. Let's get started. Hey guys, today we're going to be making a leather cover for this GIL-TEK RAW wallet. By itself, this is an awesome wallet. This wallet is for those that like minimalist wallets. This wallet is awesome. Super light, simple, will hold like 9 cards, and you forget it's in your pocket. It's really small for what it holds. So we're gonna cover it in leather because I gotta wrap everything in leather. And I call this the raw hide for the raw wallet. The raw hide. We're going to do this in red leather with red stitching just to match the red anodized aluminum wallet for this. I've made a lot of these. These are they were pretty popular when that raw wallet came out. I will also, in all my videos, will be reviewing the tools that I use while I'm using them. Mostly my favorite tools. Today we're going to cut our stuff with the indispensable knife here. I love this knife. The thing I did not like about it is that I have another one here. This one's my left hand cut for when I got to get on the left-hand side of a template. The thing I didn't like about it is these screws are really super sharp and scratchy. So I'd lay it down and it'll mar up the leather really super easy. So I didn't like that, and they protrude up a little bit. So I can buff them down and all that, but didn't really want to go through all that kind of work. So I made a little leather holders too and made it even a little more comfortable. So I made these little leather saddles for it, and I love this knife. And it countersinks those screws in, so now it won't mar up and keeps it from sliding around. So that's what I use now. I have some other knives that I use, but these are my favorite knives. I have a left and a right hand. I didn't realize the cut, and they're reversed than what you think. The one that I would use with my right hand to cut up against a template is actually the left hand cut, and it's the reverse. The right hand cut is the one that I would use against the template with my left hand, or if I got to get to the left hand side of the template, this is the right hand cut. Didn't make sense to me, but that's the way they sold it. And I originally bought the right hand cut thinking that the taper on the blade would be on the left side, and it wasn't. So keep that in mind when you do order these, that the right hand cut is for like a left-handed person, and vice versa. The left-hand cut is for the right-hand person. I like to ride against my template with my right hand, and they were reversed. Not a big deal, but you know, a lot of the other knives are right hand cut. So I don't understand why they did that. This is just a little cheapy Amazon scratch all, but I use it for pretty much every project. You have to have one to scratch your to scratch your templates in. Unless I have some templates that are acrylic, and I will cut right up on them. Another thing I like about these blades is the blade is stiff. It doesn't flex So when I'm cutting up against right up against an acrylic template, the blade won't bend under and cut into my template and ruin my template or start chattering up my template. It's a really nice straight edge. I can just use the edge to cut right up against my template, and I have a lot of control with this. The drawbacks are really tight corners. It's a little hard because the blade is a little tall. But all in all, it's an awesome knife. I use that, and we'll just use this for these today. I won't need any other knives. Super sharp, super easy to sharpen. But yeah, super sharp. I do touch them up. I usually will use like a little board here with some leather on it to strop it out, just to touch it up when I need to touch it up quick and I don't really want to mess with that. I'll just take it to my buffer and run it on the buffer on that one edge, and then touch the other edge just slightly, and it gets super, super sharp. I never really, and the blade edge lasts a long time, so I like that. I like that blade. And the blades aren't very expensive at all. So, all right. I said we'll go through a bunch of my favorite tools here, because with these with these little raw hides, I tend to use a lot of my favorite tools. Some tools are going to be on the higher end, really expensive, and some are going to be, cheap. You get them on Amazon for just a few bucks. Some of the tools, are going to be, you want to go high end, and some of them you get away with the cheapy ones. Like this is a craft tool corner cut. I love this thing. I've had this thing for over a year. Have not sharpened it yet. I baby it. I'm pretty nice to it. A lot of times I will put it on my project, and it's still sharp enough that I can just kind of press it just to get that corner, especially just on little corners. Sometimes I do have to whack it if I'm going into a piece of leather the full length, but if I'm just taking off a corner, I can usually just put it on there and take off that corner with no problem, and I don't have to whack it. But sometimes on the deeper cuts, I do have to grab the cutter or the hammer and cut it, the mallet. And it doesn't take a lot, but it's so clean. If I had to adjust my cut, I mean, it looked like it wasn't lining up, so I just tucked it down a little bit more and was able to just slice it really nice. And then I just when I'm cutting, I like that cut to be very vertical. Some of the blades on some knives, the blade's really flexy, thin, and they have their space, but they're very flexy. So when I'm cutting around corners, the blade will flex under, and give me a taper on my cut. And that's not good when I'm punching my holes. That taper can get, when I'm only doing like an 1/8 inch edge hole, that taper can cut into that a little bit, and that stitch gets really close to that edge, and it can blow through. So you want to be careful with that. Other than that, they're really good for corners if you can keep that blade just nice and horizontal or vertical, or else you'll be cleaning it up. And like I said, when you start punching your holes, you'll get really close to that edge, and that's not good. So I have one cut here. This is just a steel rule. Nothing fancy about the ruler here. All right. Sorry that had to charge my viewer there. Not a lot of pressure that I have to put on this blade. It's like super sharp, and when it isn't, I just take it over to the buffer. I do test my blades before I start, to make sure that they're nice and sharp. I'll take a little piece of leather and just test it, make sure that I don't have to deal with it when in the middle of a project, especially when I'm doing a batch of 10 or something that somebody wants. I don't want to have a dull tool. Plus, dull tools, in my opinion, are kind of dangerous because you tend to use more pressure than you need, and you can slip by using that pressure. There's all kinds of things that can happen when you have a dull tool, especially a thin blade, that dullness, and you want to put more pressure, and then that blade snaps, and it's just not fun and not productive when you have to stop what you're doing. A lot of my stuff, actually all of my stuff, is hand cut with a template or freehand or whatever. I was toying around with the idea of having some punches made. They're pretty expensive, and then to do it right, you want to press that'll do it. To cut that leather through. And some of my favorite YouTubers that do leather hand cut all their stuff. Mascon Leather is one of my favorites. Awesome work. He hand cuts all of his stuff with cereal box templates and blades and stuff, and his stuff is just so nice and just beautiful work. Expensive, but beautiful. These are some cheapy little round cutters that I got on Amazon. I don't think I paid very much. I'm pretty cheap. I probably paid like $25-30 for these. But there's a whole set. I mean, the finish and the cut is not really nice, but they do the job. They give me a nice round thing, and I use them. I made a little holder for them that has magnets on them. But they save a lot of time for cutting little divots out. They save a whole bunch of time than me trying to get it perfect. It cuts it perfectly. And then all I have to do is come in and touch that taper out edge. So that one's ready to go. I'll put a link to what I have and where to get it if you guys are interested and can't find it. Also, while I'm working, if you see me doing something that you know of an easier way to do it, put that comment down below. I haven't been doing this for a lot of years, but I've been doing it for a few, and I'm sure there's easier ways of doing it, and I might have been doing it wrong this whole time. And while cutting my stuff by hand, I wouldn't mind speeding up production, whooping these out a little bit quicker. All right, so we have our base parts cut out. One thing I do for these inner holes and like window holes and stuff like that is I use punches for those. Just buy these sets. It has all kinds of shapes for buckles or strap holes, rivet holes. These are awesome for cutting rivets if you don't like to pound stuff. To make the hole for the rivets or buttons and stuff like that. But I used to, get it set and hit it with a mallet. I used to do that. And the reason I don't do that anymore is because they tend to separate. I don't know if you can see that, but it's separated right there. The welds bust, and that happens when you whack them a lot. The set's really not that expensive, but if you have to buy 2 to 3 sets, it can get pretty pricey. So what I do now, this was my first set, and I learned quickly to not whack them with the thing, but I ruined a couple of these. Like this one, I can't really use anymore, and I stopped using the set. So I bought another set, and then a buddy of mine got me one for Christmas, and I have 3 sets. Some of these are still good, so I keep this set around. But I use an arbor press now to press it in nice and gently, and then the welds don't bust. I tried to use, like, this one's wrapped in tape. Before I thought to use the arbor press, I would wrap them in tape because I knew that they started busting. And I was using this one for a while with it wrapped in like a packing tape. And it held out a little bit better, but you can see I got a couple of them wrapped in tape. But I found doing them on the arbor press is way better. They last a lot longer, and that's what I do with them now. So, and then I have a little magnet back here, little magnet that holds my more popular ones. So I come back here on my arbor press. Oh, and another thing that I do is I cut a bunch of these ABS plates out. I got a big sheet of ABS, and I made the top here, and I had some left over. I made these little ABS plates. They're probably 1/4 inch thick, and these are awesome for cutting on the arbor press. I have not gone through one yet. There's 2 that are kind of chowdered up, but I have not gone through one yet. They get cuts, but they last for forever. I've been using these for cutting with the arbor press for about a year, and I have not gone through one yet. So these are great. Let me know. I have a couple I'll sell you for like $5. And it doesn't take a lot of pressure to cut it. And then I had all these little whole round things, and I have a cousin that does woodwork, and I give these to him, or for little feet for woodwork or little stops for doors. He likes to glue these on his little doors for stops and stuff or little feet. For some of his woodwork. So I just keep them up here and I give them to him. This template's getting a little worn, so I'm gonna make sure that this hole is square. I have a 3D printer, and Mascon and a couple other people have these really nice brass square things like this, and I wish I had the brass money because those are so pretty. But I 3D printed these ones and they work just as good. They're just not as pretty. But they're really good for lining up things, or I can line this up like this and like this and get a really nice idea where my edge should be and correct my holes. Yeah, it was off a little bit. I want that hole straight on my thing, so if you can see, my hole was a little off, or my score was a little off because my template's getting old. I made over probably 50 of these. So when it starts doing that, I just wanted to double check, and yeah, it was off. So I'm going to use that as my score mark. And now my holes should line up. And they do. Nice. Nice thing about these too is the blade you can really shoot out there, and I can really get in there and trim that edge off. A nice straight line, or use a straight edge, whatever I have at the time. But the blade's long enough that I can get in there and do that, and then I can burnish that down, make it look nice. This is one of my favorite tools. What's it called? The Heritage Tools anvil. This thing's awesome. You can turn it to a side and has some divots for setting some rivets. It has some punch throughs, so if you make a mistake, put that thing over there and punch it through. I was wondering what that big hole was for, and come to find out that hole is for the trash that will get punched through if you're punching through that. And it's big, and it's not crazy heavy, but it's heavy enough to pound rivets, or I like to use it as a nice flat edge, or my stone to trim off the edges, to bevel the edges. I work all my hammering and rivet stuff over here because there's a big 4x4 foot right here, and this rests right on top of it, so my table doesn't flex. So, and then I can come over here too and and use my my little beveler. These are Odin bevelers. I got them on Amazon. I don't think they're really that expensive. Odin, I do touch them up, sharpen them, but these are pretty awesome. They're super sharp. I found beveling on a straight edge. This is really soft leather, so I got to be really careful because they'll just bunch up. Found beveling on a flat hard surface is better than beveling on this. Sometimes I'll use this stone, and maybe I'll use this stone for displaced purposes. Yeah, this stuff is just really soft, so it's not really beveling really nice. Some leathers, you get that satisfying rip when you're beveling, and some leathers, you just have to just take off that bumped up edge. Again, on like the Odin and all of my other tools, aside from the things I 3D printed, I will put down in the description below, so that you guys know what I got and where I got it. All right. So my next step after I've gotten my rough cuts and stuff like that is to put my label on it. And a flag. I got the flag from Tandy Leather. They have all kinds of designs and puppy dogs and flowers and all that kind of stuff. So I got an American flag. I put that on just about everything that I make. And then my logo for my leather craft stuff, CSI Leather Craft, which is Concealed Solutions Integrated Leather Craft. And they made, this came from leather stamp maker. It's like $50 some odd. Got it to me super quick. You send them your design, and the detail in their stamps is amazing. It turned out awesome. This one's a 1" by 1" round, or 1" square, but rounded logo that they made for me. And they got it to me quick. It's threaded, so you can put it on a heating iron, so you can burn your logo in. They also made me another one. And I'll pull this out too. They make an awesome little set for letters and stuff. I had to call him and ask for some more periods and spaces. But now I believe he told me that his new sets have extra periods and spacers. So if you want to do initial dot, or say something like this person did, there are some spacers for that. They make a really good set. I have another stamp somewhere. I don't know what happened to it. That's it just says CSI, Concealed Solutions Integrated. I started out making holsters for guns and knives and stuff in the waistband, concealed carry stuff. Then I went on to pocket organizers. I make a series of pocket organizers, concealed carry stuff. You know, anything small and thin. A lot of the stuff that I make my stuff for is small and thin. So I go through and I look for small, thin products, and I base my pocket organizers on those items. I have made pocket organizers for larger Olights and stuff like that. My other job, I have to dress up, and I just didn't want this big old bulk in my pocket. This is really thin, and I carry a Rook. Yeah, we're kind of going off the subject here, right? I carry a Rook, GIL-TEK Rook knife. At my job, I can't carry anything over 3 inches in a knife, so I carry this Rook. Comes in handy, bottle opener. Not that I can open beer bottles at work, but this thing is to open boxes and stuff. This is super convenient. The Olight, I'm a big Olight fan. Olight i3T EOS, really small, thin. Well, I'm always crawling under desks and stuff for looking at cables and stuff for computers. The bullet pen, I carry that now. I have a little slot for that. Fingernail clippers, monkeys, got those in Amazon. A buddy of mine got me hooked on these, and for some reason I always need fingernail clippers to snip a hangnail or whatever, and these are like super ultra thin, so they fit in this little pocket organizer. He also got me pointed into these Uncle Bill's sliver gripper tweezers. Awesome. And I integrated those into this thing, and they snap in. And then there was little spaces, so I put a little toothpick in there that comes in handy for my personal thing. So there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 items in this small, thin pocket organizer. And this one's called the Runt, or the Runt T, -T for tweezers, because I integrate the tweezers. I have a Runt that doesn't have the tweezers. But this is a awesome little, I carry it with me every day, and I use everything in there every day. So the Runt T, or I have the Runt that doesn't have the tweezers. That holds just as much, but it gives you an extra pocket back here to put something thin in there, whatever you have, maybe a little pry bar or something like that. But the Runt T, I carry that with me every day. And I do carry a knife. It is under 3 inches. That one is the Ace Giant Mouse Ace. It's I use this a lot also, but more often I use my Rook on that. So back to our project. Now that I can't find my thing, I got to stamp these. These little squares are perfect for aligning my stamp for my logo. It gives a really nice stamp. The detail and the lettering, real small, but you can read it. It's awesome. So yeah, leather stamp maker. I'll put a link on this one. They make, and they're quick and reasonable. $50, but this thing, heat, cold press, whatever, and it's lasted, made out of brass. Really good stamp. I like them. All right, so now I'm all stamped up, ready to go. Punching pad. I just buy the cheapy one, whatever I can find cheap. They last a long time. They tend to bubble up after a while as you punch through, but they still work perfect. And then a cheap score to measure your things. I go 1/8 of an inch in and score my line. For my hole punches. Now I have them scored. So, another one of my favorite tools is the Cinebrox hole punch. I get them in the 5 and the 2. I don't do crazy huge projects that I need more than 5. You know, I can usually get through with these, and it's fine. You start getting too many, what I found is it makes it a little harder to pull out of your project. So 5 seems to do good for me, and then the 2 for going around corners so that you get a really nice round corner and following your line. So I do a 2 and a 5 in the Cinebrox. These are just the hole punch. Okay. I also have the Cinebrox slits, or just the punch, for doing a little finer work. Again, the 5 and the 2 works really good for me. Those are the ones I like, because I like everything to match, as most people do. Not all, but most. But I like the brass. I like how it patinas and all that. I do also have the KS blade punch. I like these also. Both, they're around the same price. They're kind of pricey, $100 and some odd dollars. There's pros and cons to both. They both have removable blades. You can get the blades replaced on these. These, you can replace the blades. It's a process. You got to heat it up, pull it out, put it in, and there's a jig that you align it through and then let it dry, or let it cool or dry. But you can replace the blades. I have to replace one. I have the blades. You can get them pretty easily. But I dropped it on the concrete and have to replace that blade. So, the pro to the KS blade punch is that the taper and the base of this hole is not as big as that. It's really close, but it's not as big. So I tend to be able to go through a little thicker leather with these, and they come out a little bit pretty nice. With these, it's a little thicker at the base, and I know you probably can't tell, but they are. And they're the same depth, but with these being thicker, once you get into a real thick piece of leather, you have to work these out a little bit more. It's not that bad, but a lot of times I make sure that my holes will align. So I just do them in single pieces versus gluing them together and trying to punch through. Or if it's too thick, I'll use my Titman Boss sewing machine there. They're both about the same quality, I feel. They're both polished blades. They're really, really nice blades. The They're both, I use a 5, I think it's a 5mm spacing with a 5 blade thing on everything. These aren't as pretty. They look cool, but they're not as pretty as the Cinnabrox. But they do look cool. They look really rugged and beefy. And they both weigh about the same. So I kind of like a beefier tool. Makes me feel like they're going to last a little bit longer. So we will get on with our punching. I hang one of these off the edge as a guide so that when I come to this one, I know that if I hang this off as a guide, when I line these together, they're gonna match up. And sometimes, depending on if I feel like I want it a little tighter or not, I'll either go to the left of the line, to the right of the line, or just dead center. This is a pretty soft leather, so I'm going to do it a little tight. So I'm going to go to the left, or the inside of the line. And I just use that as a guide. And these are, it doesn't take a large whack. It's just a tap. I use just a regular flat old school mallet. I don't know if I'd be able to use they have a round one. This is kind of inverted round, and I just feel that it's not a flat surface to hit a flat surface. So I chose to go with the flat one because I know how to use a hammer. Same thing at the other side. I'm going to go to the inside of that line. I make sure that my punch is straight up and down. And there you go. That's one side. So then I make sure that I have, this is the bottom, and this is the bottom of this one. I'm going to go again on the inside of that line with my guide. Those corners should match on both my sides. So when I line the corners, all these lines, all these holes should just match. It doesn't take a whole lot if your tools are sharp. Again, there's these. So now what? So now if I line these up, the corners, this corner, I see light all the way through those. That means that I'm gonna not have to fight getting that needle through. It's just gonna go really nice. And with soft, pliable leather like this, it's gonna fold and it's gonna fight me the whole way. So I like to be able to minimize that. My glue, my cement, I use two types. I use the old school with the pot. I use the old school barge cement. And for my little tube here, my bottle, I use this Tanner's Bond cement. It comes out really nice, and I have the little needle tip on this, so I can just get a little stripe along that sewing or that the thread line, and I don't have to use a lot of glue, and try and separate it with a bone tool or something. I use that. So this is what's in my little tube, the Tanner's Bond cement from Tandy. I get it from Tandy. And these little needle applicators are awesome. I have some Tokonol in there, some burnishing stuff in there, and contact. And it's just awesome because you could just apply what you need, and you don't have to fight with it, and you don't have to use a big brush for something that you need a real fine line for. So that's what I use, and I just hang them there. It gets cold in here, and I have a heater under my bench, so my heater warms up all my stuff. This is thinner, but I use barge cement for my big stuff, like liners and stuff. I use that. So, silicone spatula. The nice thing about silicone spatulas is when that dries on it, I can literally just rub it off. It doesn't stick. It just rubs right off. So that's really nice. So what I do is I put a little strip of this, and then I take this and I wipe it to the edge. So I get a really nice line right there, and that way I don't have to, it's hidden. You won't see the glue after it's stitched. If you use too much, anybody who's like nitpicking it will look inside and they'll see all that glue. So I just found that this works the best for applying glue. You can get it right on that edge. When I stitch that, you won't be able to see it even if you tug that stitch. And if you guys have any suggestions on glue and stuff, let me know. I'm always open for using new stuff. This stuff, it flows through that needle applicator really nice. The barge or whatever won't. It's too thick. I tend to buy leather that's already colored. I do have dyes, leather dye, and if I do color it, I'll airbrush it. I have an airbrush behind you. I have an airbrush station that I use for coloring my leather. I like to clear out my needle and then put the cap on and then just hang it back up. We let that dry for a little bit. I found that you don't really have to let it dry too much. All it is to stick it for my stitching. And we are going to do red stitching today because it's going to look cool with the red, everything red. So it doesn't matter which side I start on. I like to finish my stitches, and I pull them both through the back, and then we'll go through what I do. But I get that hole, all those holes lined up, which pretty much lines up my edge too. Sometimes if it's stiffer, I can use one of these and use the edge. But this way, I got light shining through. And that I'll start my stitch from the top here, and this is the bottom like this, so I'll end my stitch at the bottom. So when I put it in here in my little stitching pony, I start at the I sew towards me. I've seen people do it. Either way, I like to sew towards me. It's easier for me. So I do the length of the stitch and double that, and then double the whole thing. It works. I forgot where I saw it, but it works. So threading the needles for small stuff like this, I'll just pull it through, bend it over, and get to sewing. You can, if you didn't know, you can weave your needle through. So you can weave your needle through and then lock it in, which is taking the tip of that needle and poking it through the middle of those strands of cord or thread, and it locks your needle in, and then you pull it through like that and lock it in. I feel I don't need to do it on small stuff like this, but on larger projects I will lock my needle in. I call it locking in or weaving. I don't know what they call it, but I'll lock it in. Main thread is not tightly wound, so it will unravel. So it unravels, and I end up with it like this anyway. So, but it depends on the color. So some colors are tightly wound, some are loosely wound. Some seem like they have more wax on them. Some colors don't have as much wax on them, but I still like them. They're it's called Main Thread Company. I get the .040. It's kind of like a medium thread. It's not real super crazy heavy, but it's not real thin either, like what I use in my Tippmann. So, and I ready to sew here. With this project, I usually will expose the ends out. Like I said, this seems to be real popular to get that thread exposed out. My terminology might be wrong, but that's what I call it. And then I start sewing. But as you can see, this leather is going to fight me the whole way because it's not real stiff. It's just real supple leather. It's nice feeling leather, but it's not hard. It's just it wants to fold over fairly easily. So not a big deal. I know how to work it. I don't really tighten this or pull too tight. Couple reasons. One, it tears my pinkies up. And two, it doesn't really need to be super crazy tight. This is a saddle stitch that I do. Most small projects that I do will be hand stitched. Some of the bigger projects, or when I add a liner, like a backing to a leather, I will use my Tippmann hand stitcher. It would be nice to have an electric machine, but my shop is a perfect size. It doesn't take up a lot of space. And everything is, I turn around and everything's right there. I turn around, everything's like a drum set. I have everything within reach, and I don't have to move a lot to get to it. When I don't want to have to walk across the shop to put a stamp on. I don't want to have to walk across the shop to do anything else. I want to turn around and it be right there. All right, there's one side. So I started on this end, which is the top, or the stuff where you put your wallet, your cards and stuff on the wallet. So this is the bottom, this is the back. So I double back my stitching, sound effects. Double back my stitching so that they're both coming out. I nip those as close as I can, but leaving a little bit raised up. And then I use the thread zapper, or thread zap. I have both versions. This one's a dual battery and it flips out. You have that little zipper, or you have this little push button one. Sometimes you have to clean the tips, especially if you're using colored thread. If I was doing black thread on this one and doing the colored thread, it's going to leave a little mark, or like it's going to look black. So let me clean this tip real quick. I use like a little steel brush, and I heat it up, and I just kind of lightly just get rid of that stuff, the old thread, and I like using these rather than a match, because I can get detailed. If I trim this close enough, I can actually countersink the thread, and you can't even tell where I heated this up. These tend to eat through batteries a lot. It could be a lot that my shop is in a garage, so it gets cold in here, and that kind of kills the batteries too. But it seals that thread. And then I have very little cleanup. Everything lined up pretty good. Very, very little cleanup to do on the edge on this. And then I expose the ends. It gives it a little strength on that edge, and then they don't start flopping, especially with this real soft leather. It's going to start lifting and stuff. So this is going to look a little bit nicer for whoever wants it. So now I am going to do the other side. And again, I'm going to start at the top, work my way down this way with the same saddle stitch, and get my threads on the same side. These are just some nippers that came in like a starter kit set, but I was able to separate this like this, and I was able to sharpen the blades and polish them up, and then it just kind of closes. And these are really nice. They work. I'm sure they're cheap. They have like a bird on them, so I don't know what brand that is, but they have a bird on them. My buddy gave me these ones, and they have a removable blade. I can't find these blades, so I've resharpened them and all that, and these are really nice also. They used to be his mother's. I knew his mother really well before she passed away, and I remember her saying, don't use these to cut anything, and all of her sewing stuff. So he gave me these, so I take care of them, and I can hear her voice every time I use these, saying, hey, don't cut anything but thread with those. So I love these. These are, I keep good care of those. So let's see here. Thread. Let's stitch this up, and I'll show you how I finish this up. The cool thing about, the thing I like about the wax thread is once I'm done, you kind of wear out the wax, or you kind of whiten it up or dull it out. I have a heat gun back there. I have a little heat gun area over here, and I hit it with a heat gun or a blow dryer, and it shines up the thread, the wax. It shines up the wax. And I do that right before I ship them out, so when they open it up, it looks pristine. And if they ever want to shine up the thing, they just hit it with the blow dryer or put it on the dash of their car, and that heat will just shine it up a little bit until the wax wears off. But I do that, and I think it looks really cool, especially the black. It really makes if I did a really fancy stitch, it really makes that stitch stand out. My needles aren't anything fancy. I don't remember where I got them. I got a pack of like 100 of them. And I think I've had them for a couple of years, and I think I've bent like 6 of them. So I still have a bunch left. Like I said, I hand stitch a lot of these small projects. It doesn't take me that long to make it if I'm not, explaining or showing people how to do it. It doesn't take me that long to stitch one of these up. I have a couple other little projects that I do that I hand stitch. But when I'm like sewing, when I'm attaching 2 pieces of leather together because I want a nice face on both sides, like with a holster or some of my hybrid holsters that have a suede back to them, I will stitch them with the hand stitcher. Again, I don't have an electric machine. It would be nice, but one, I don't really have the space for it. I kind of like the size of my shop. So I don't really care to suck up space with a big machine. The Tippmann Boss that I have is small. It's a small footprint, and I still have room on either side of my bench here to, I have a rivet press here, the press on the rivets. And I have a little heat area that I use for like heating my stamps and stuff, and my heat gun. So I don't really want to give up that space. And I have my shop kind of sectioned off. So this side that we're on right now is my main leather cutting, sewing, hammering stuff. Behind me is my sanding, grinding, polishing area. I do use Dremel for some of my stuff, like to just touch up some edges. And I have them on a cord. So I have 3 Dremel pieces. I have a burnishing electric one that I don't really use that often because I feel that hand burnishing works the best. I got a sanding quick removable disc for just touching up the edges. Snaps. And then this is a cutting disc. I do Kydex holsters and other things, custom Kydex holsters and other things, and that's really good for cutting the Kydex. Same with this. I use this to shape the Kydex edges and stuff, or to do scales, G10 and carbon fiber scales for knives. I use that for that. This sanding wheel I used for leather and Kydex. To your, or over here, I don't know if that's the right or the left, I have a vacuum press. So for, it does a dual purpose. I use it for shaping the Kydex, and I also use it for molding wet leather. So I have some plastic, like knives and plastic gun molds and stuff, and I use it to mold once I sew everything together, to wet mold the leather also. And then behind that, I have a Kydex heating plate. And then behind that, I have a press that I use to make my own micarta and G10 stuff. So I have my hands in a lot of stuff. But mostly I do leather and leather work and leather craft and custom leather stuff. I think I mentioned I don't keep a lot of keep a lot of stock, because stuff like this, I have so many options that I just make it when they order it. You can red leather, crazy horse leather, which is my most popular leather. So yeah, crazy horse and Horween, or you get to pick your leather, you get to pick your stitching, you get to pick your hardware. Like if I have a piece that uses like a copper rivet or a brass rivet or a black rivet or a button rivet, or brass buttons or chrome buttons or black buttons. So they have all those options. So I can't really keep things in stock because it might not be what anybody really wants. Everybody wants to customize their own stuff. So it gives them a custom option, and they know that it was custom made or made to order per their options. So I don't really keep a lot of stock. This will be in stock because I'm making it as a demo, or as a giveaway. I participate in some giveaways and stuff. So that'll either go in a giveaway or I'll sell it. I feel hand burnishing, I get a better result. I do sometimes use that electric one, but I just recently got those wheels, and I've found that I get a slicker result with burnishing. This is my go-to. This one works every time. This one took a month or something to get here from Canada, and I called them and I'm like, where is it? I've been waiting, and then when I got it, I was disappointed. It's just not as good. This one I've worn in. I got some junk on it, so it slicks really nice. So, and it's the cheapy one. It's cheap. They're not very expensive. So now I look. This side is really flush and really nice. This side has a little overhang, so I'm gonna get my straight edge out here, and I'm just going to flush that up. And this is where you want a really sharp. There, now it's all nice and flush. And then, Tokonol. I resisted for the longest time. I didn't believe the hype of how good Tokonol was. And then I used it, and it's awesome. And with this little applicator, you get, I can always add more, but I never get too much. And I just rub that in. Get all the leather. And I buy it it comes in a tub. Yeah. Comes in a tub like this. And I take this bottle, I stick it in there, and I suck some up in there, and I put the cap on and put that aside. It lasts a while. I think I've had that bottle for a year. And it's about ready for me to get some more. But I don't need a lot. So I'm just going to go through and smooth out some of the edges here, make it look finished. So on insides like this, I will probably use the Dremel part because it's a little easier to get in there. That's just a little big to get in that small hole. So there are benefits to that. So I might keep it on that spindle. But just to give it a finished look and to round off that edge and smooth out that leather. Get the little fuzzies laid down. I also I took one of those wheels and I made just a little single one. And of course I don't know where it is. But this is my go-to. But it's heavy, and when I want to get to the smaller sides, it has a hard, I can't get in. So I will turn this on. And it does a pretty good job. I just like the hand one better. But it's good for getting in there because this is hard to get in. the little corners. So and it probably would have been easier for me to burnish these edges before I put it together, but sometimes you just go with what you got. And it doesn't take a lot. That's why I like the applicator, because it's just a couple of dots or a line. Alright, and then the hole. So I designed these to fit snug, so they don't just slide off. And with my Dremels, they're multi-speed, so I put it on a slower speed, and it smoothed it out pretty good. Today, it worked out really good. Now, everything seems to be looking good. Everything's all finished. We got our GIL-TEK RAW. And I will put that. Like I said, these fit snug, and I went to the inside of that, but I only did that because it's kind of a stretchy leather. And get it started. They're not made to be taken on and off. I did the seam so it, on the corner, bottom corner of this thing, and it slips on like a tight pair of leather pants. And there you go. Oop, I put it on upside down. Let me push that out and put it on the right way, because that's not the right way. This is the right way. Yeah, that's the right way. Get it all aligned. And there it is. Red on red with red stitching. And put a couple cards in there. Show you how it works. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll put 7 in there for now. And you just push that down and slide your cards in. And that's the leather alone. Like I said, by itself, it's an awesome little wallet. Really super thin. The raw hide that I put on there makes it a little thicker, but not too much. But it's for those people that like leather, but love the wallet too. So you kind of fix everything, and you just has a little spot for you to push the thing down. You can fan your cards out, figure out which one you want, and then do that. So that's the raw wallet with the raw hide option on it, and this will wear and patina really nice and wear in. The highlights of red with red stitching. This has a really good pull. This leather has a really nice pull on it. I tend to wrinkle them up a little bit to give that pull, but you can also rub that pull out and get it back and dark again if you need it. But it'll patina really nice and give you some red highlights along with the red wallet, which I think looks pretty sharp. So if you like what you saw, please give it a thumbs up. Add any of your comments or suggestions in the bottom comment area, and make sure you hit that subscribe button to so that you don't miss out on any other projects. I'm hoping to post every Sunday, or at least make the videos every Sunday and post by Monday. We'll see how that works out. This is a new thing for me. So we'll go with that, and hope to see you guys soon. Talk to you later.